Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So I've been lucky enough to have several conversations recently with different franchise business owners. Now that is, for a lot of franchisees, but also you may have heard my conversation earlier this week with Brittany Driscoll, and she is the founder and head of the franchisor Squeeze. Now, when we talk about franchising, there's really two sides of the story. One is creating a business, building a business that you wish to franchise out and have people purchase franchises. The other side is if you are a business owner who wants the cheat codes, wants the shortcut, wants to open a franchise business. And I actually love franchising because I started out my whole career in McDonald's and I learned pretty much everything I know about business from McDonald's. And I have a deep appreciation for the amount of intent, the amount of steps, processes, SOPs, and studying that goes into successfully running a franchise. It is not as easy as, open the doors, follow the manual. There's a lot of still risk associated with a franchise, even though they're already following a proven model. So I wanted to dedicate this episode to discussing some of the common struggles that franchisees encounter, but also just how to keep high margins, because it doesn't mean, and just because you purchased a franchise business, it doesn't mean that you inherently have certain profitability. Now, maybe some folks, your operating partners, other people who own the same franchise can give you some tips and tricks because they've literally gone and done it in your exact type of business, but it doesn't guarantee success. So I want to focus on a couple of key things that make franchisees a little bit different than small business owners who are, starting up their own thing from scratch. And one of those is that franchisees have to typically pay a very large investment up front. Now, I'm not just talking about the franchise or licensing fees. That's a big part of it. Normally, you have to pay a fee to use the license, to use the brand, to use the name and all the IP. But also you have upfront investment in buying inventory, if you have inventory, in your marketing, your franchise fees, obviously, but also the infrastructure, because you're expected to kind of make your money back by obviously running the business. And in order to run the business, you have to essentially make several years worth of investments all at the same time. There is no phasing in. There is no, I'm just going to take my time and grow over 3 or 5 years. No, because you can't open your doors until you're fully, open, until you're fully funded with everything that you need. So the biggest issue I see with franchisees is cash flow management, because you have this massive upfront investment and you have to be able to forecast and project how much you're going to earn as you open your doors and basically set the right expectations. You have to see, what typical franchisees earn. You also have to be very realistic with your goals personally, with how much you're going to take out of the business, because you may not be able to take personal cash flow for a while and have to reinvest that back into the business. And you have to be super clear about, what are the cash flow implications? And do we have enough money to invest? Is this going to put us out? And for how long? And it's not to discourage anyone from investing and starting a franchise business, but I would say you have to be realistic about your expectations, and you have to definitely have money saved up, and you have to be able to fund the business when it's not open its doors yet. So it is a big upfront investment with a lot of risk on the front end. So it's really important that you can manage cash flow effectively. The other thing is understanding your royalty structure. So if you don't fully understand how royalties work, then this can come back to bite you. I mean, I've seen business owners who struggle with the payment processing fees or the loan fees because they didn't read the fine print. And it's really important to understand how you pay out your franchisor and how they're going to be making money off of your location. Now, understanding royalty structure is key, because you could be chipping away at a certain percentage, anywhere probably between I'd say between 4 and 8%, sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower, of your revenue potentially, or your profit. You have to be really clear about what am I paying and how much and how often. So you have to make sure that you're reserving those fees to pay your franchisor, much like you would reserve funds and pay taxes. So managing the timing of that is really key. And knowing that's going to be taken out of your revenue is also key, because you have to budget for that. And a lot of folks, that creeps up on them and they realize, oh, shoot, with the royalties I have to pay. And they realize that they think the royalties are high, but in reality, they're only high because you didn't pay them first. You didn't set them aside first. And if you don't do that, then whatever's left over, you're barely going to be able to afford the royalties, just like taxes. So you have to make sure that you're a full understanding on like what the terms are with your franchisor, like with the company, and that you're aligned to what strategy you'll use to pay them and pay them on time, and make sure you know how to compute the right value of those royalties so that everybody's getting paid fairly. And finally, one thing you have to do to maintain high margins is really understand what is expected of you and how you stack up against the other operating partners. Now, I don't say competitors, I'm saying the other people who own the franchise, especially in your geographic area. You have to understand what are the expectations of you based on the performance of these other stores or locations, and align to them as well as benchmarks. Now, just because your location is profitable doesn't mean it's as profitable as it could be. It doesn't mean that's in line with the average margins of similar businesses in your industry or in your actual franchise. You have to make sure you understand where you stack up against the other operating partners and what factors drive that. For example, if you meet another operating partner that's near your region and they have significantly higher margins, I would find out why, because maybe the labor is cheaper. I don't know how, right? How can labor be cheaper in one town versus the other? Or maybe, you can find out if you have labor costs, let's say, you can find out if someone is rounding up on their timesheets, or you can find out if, material costs could be lower by ordering in bulk, or maybe you work with the other operating partner and you figure out how to share certain resources. There are different ways that you can accomplish that. And it's important to stay connected to those resources too as a franchisee. So there are some additional benefits here that may be hidden to you, those of you who may not be thinking, I want to open a franchise business. You could be thinking, well, I really like running my own thing because I want that control. I want that freedom. Well, a lot of franchisees also have that control and that freedom, but they also have the playbook and they also have the ability to grow a business knowing exactly what it takes to grow it in an industry they may be passionate about, or in an area they may be passionate about, and be able to create jobs relatively quickly. I've noticed that a lot of franchise businesses they have to hire really quickly. It's not like your typical digital business where you can, hire a VA and then hire someone else 6 months later and 6 months later. Typically, you're going to be hiring a whole team right out the gate. So you have to front load a lot of those skills and the capital to be able to make that happen. It is a lot of pressure because basically it's an overnight MBA. You have to be able to hire people, you have to be able to manage, and you have to be able to manage the operations of the business as well. So just keep that in mind, that although it may seem like being a franchisee is lower risk, it can be high risk in terms of what you're investing and what you're putting into it, especially if you don't have a ton of experience. Now, again, not to discourage you, I think it's great. I think I could see myself as a franchisee at some point in my future. But for now, I do think that until, we can better master some of these core skills like managing cash flow, understand the royalty structures, right? And understanding our benchmarking, it's going to be a struggle for certain franchisees who don't have a business background to be able to succeed in this ever growing economy that we're in, and ever changing economic environment where, something's cool one day and not cool the next. And we may not be able to understand why our business isn't successful. And these types of tools will help you regardless of the type of business that you run. One of the best decisions I made in business that saved me countless headaches was getting expert advice in HR as I started growing my team. With so many compliance requirements, especially for virtual businesses, I could never get caught up on everything I needed to learn or I was supposed to do. That's where Jackie and her team at People Principles came in with their signature HR audit for only $349. But get this, if you use code Shannon50, you get $50 off of that. So it's only $300. You'll have peace of mind by the end of the week with this exclusive offer as a Keep What You Earn listener. Here's what's included: a step-by-step self-assessment, a 60-minute strategy session with their HR experts to ensure that you're in compliance and you have a plan for getting on track, an HR template to keep all this important stuff in one place, and a roadmap of the top 3 best practices to implement right now in the next 6 to 12 months. Again, use code Shannon50 to take $50 off of this assessment. Do not miss out on this opportunity or let unintentional HR mistakes derail your business growth. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.